Hey folks, this is a guitar that I've been looking forward to delving into and doing a video on because they are all over Amazon these days and they are perhaps the cheapest. And I'm kicking myself for not starting a series on these knockoff Tellys. Now must be the 12th or 13th that I've featured. And somebody asked me, well, of the ones you've had so far, which do you like the best, even though you haven't kept any of them? And I had to say, in response to that question, that probably the Harley Benton 52 Telly that is this color, and maybe the black paisley one. So perhaps Harley Benton is winning the battle of cheap Tellys at the moment. However, a lot of them have been good for the money. The Ash Indio, that's the deluxe model from Monoprice, was pretty decent. The Zoo-Ways weren't bad. They just weren't quite what I was looking for. And others, I've had an SX that was pretty nice. Yeah, so there've been a few, that have been, reasonably good. That Glen Burton wasn't bad. That I featured a couple of videos back. But this is Lyx Pro. Lyx Pro. Now, I know that, they're referring to guitar licks, so I suppose it's a guitar-related title. But I gotta say, Lyx Pro, to me, again, doesn't really fill me with excitement. And all you see on this is Lyx with a small pro underneath. So again, I think some of these brand names are a bit lacking, in my opinion. I don't know. That's just me. I don't know what other people feel. Other people don't care, do they? If the guitar is great, what does it matter if it says Grote or Glary? Maybe that's your opinion. However, I look at things from the standpoint of a designer slash manufacturer slash distributor, because I worked in those channels for many years. And marketing is a big part of this. And I think if you have a really, really snappy, good name, a good brand name, I think it really does help. I don't know, Lyx Pro doesn't really do anything for me. I suppose the word pro is indicating that this is a higher end guitar. It is not. It's definitely a student quality model. However, I try not to let price influence my decision. Although I have to say this is probably one of the cheaper ones that I've talked about so far. So this one I think sells for about $109 on Amazon or somewhere around there, and occasionally you can get them under $100. Differences between this and some of the others that I've had in the natural finish and the black pickguard, because I've had a few. This is lighter. This is Pawlonia, and some of the recent models I've had are alder, basswood, mahogany, what else? Ash. And those are all denser, heavier woods. This is Pawlonia. And if you look for Pawlonia guitars, they're usually a bit more expensive than this one. So I'm not sure how they're getting Pawlonia to be able to do in this price range. But it is pretty attractive. I mean, it's pretty nice grain. It looks very, very similar to some of those other woods. But it is a bit lighter. It's not as heavy. It's not super light, but it's certainly not in the 11-12 pound region as some of those other guitars. What I like about this guitar right away, I like the neck. I like the fact that I don't have to do any fret end beveling. That's nice. And I like this maple neck, particularly on this finish of a guitar. I just think it looks right with the maple neck and then the naked guitar body and the black pickguard. It's a nice combination. So I like the neck. As I said, the frets are pretty decent, and the guitar, looks pretty competent. However, and this is not a fault of the guitar, this is just a feature of guitars at this price range. The more you play it, the more you realize, that you're dealing with fairly cheap parts. Not terrible. I mean, they're about as good as some of these others. You've got the standard ash tray chrome bridge set up here, 2 on a saddle, so you're not going to get perfect intonation. Chrome knobs, the typical 3-way switch, and the standard pickup situation with a lipstick in the neck and a single coil on a slant at the bridge. The pickups are, pretty weak. They're not. I mean, they're about on par with all the other knockoff Tellys. I think that the IYV thin-line Tellys with the Destiny round pickups and the Harley Bentons maybe have slightly better pickups than some of these other cheap brands. But I realized that a lot of Tellys are not wired with super hot pickups anyway. So, obviously they have those concerns. They're not trying to make it, a shredder guitar. I mean, they're trying to keep it within the paradigm of a Telecaster setup and all that. I did have to do, the guitar came to me backbowed, so I did have to do a significant amount of truss rod adjustment. And also the guitar was not, the string heights then had to be adjusted as well. And the intonation was slightly off, so I had to play with the saddles, which again you can't dial in perfectly. If I get the bottom E perfect, the A is ever so slightly out, and vice versa, so you really have to get as close as you can on these guitars. Here is the headstock, which is significantly different from Fender and a lot of the other Telly or Strat copies. They're not even trying to get close to a Fender with this. So, they're not getting in trouble. Very much bog standard closed gear tuning. I would say a lot of people in modding these guitars are probably going to get rid of those, and also the string trees, one of which is pinging a little bit. I'll have to tighten that up. I just noticed it a minute ago. So I would say the most negative thing about this is the setup. I mean, I think some people will have bought this guitar and sent it back. The neck was overbowed, and if somebody's not comfortable dealing with a truss rod adjustment of that magnitude, they're just going to send it back. And also, some people are just not going to know about the truss. A beginner or a kid is going to get this guitar, they're going to play it, it's going to buzz all over the place, and they're not going to necessarily know, how to crack that. They got two choices: return it, which is the simplest one, particularly with Amazon, or take it to a shop where they're going to get charged another $40-50 just to dial the setup in. So that was the biggest drawback on these. If you're buying these to mod, or you're buying these for a cheap guitar, to play with, and you're already a guitarist, you're probably not going to have too many problems taking a guitar like this and making it play well. It's already playing a lot better today, just from those few adjustments that I made. But if you're buying this for a kid, there might be some tears when it comes out of the box, because they are pretty rough. And that's the case with a lot of these budget brands as well. I got lucky with the frets on this one. Some of these come to me and the fret sprout is so severe that I have to take a straight edge file and file perpendicular along the neck before I even deal with the angle, because the frets are protruding out. And this is not the case here. The frets are pretty well seated and not protruding. It looks like it has no, it's not bound, but it's if I can show you the fret ends there, they're pretty cleanly nipped off, and they're not protruding. So that's a plus. The neck actually feels pretty good. It's probably the best thing about this guitar, and the weight. For those looking for a slightly lighter guitar, this one is considerably lighter than the Ash and Alder models that I've had recently, and the mahogany ones as well. So there you go. There's some positives. It's a pretty good looking Telly with the black pick guard. I like the figure in the wood. By the way, figure and grain are two different things. I hear a lot of guitar reviewers talking about grain when they mean figure. So anyway, the figure in the wood is really nice. The pickups are pretty much average for these types of guitars, and if you're buying it to just practice at home, you can probably live with them. If you want to take this guitar out and gig it or mod it, that's probably one of the first things you're going to swap out. And you guys know that anyway, because you know, I hear your stories about your favorite pickups and all that. But for a platform, pretty decent. Again, be prepared to do some setup and be prepared to have different experiences. I think you could get 10 of these and all 10 are going to have different issues. It feels like that kind of company. But the price is, you know, pretty unbeatable, really. I'd say these are the cheapest out of all this type. All of the plain wood ones with the black pickguard have this look. I've had 3 or 4 of them now. I know Larry does it. I know a lot of other companies do it. I know Monoprice does it. I've seen SX guitars or Ronda guitars like this as well. I know Holly Benton has some natural finish ones. None of them are around the $100 mark. They're all a bit more. So these are probably the cheapest, some of the cheapest I've seen, particularly on Amazon, probably on eBay as well. And they're about as good. I mean, you know, once you get the setup done, there's not much to distinguish from these and those other ones in terms of quality. It might be even a little bit better than a couple of them. Certainly has less issues to deal with. I mean, action is something that is both subjective and you have to deal with on most guitars. Frets, you know, some companies do better than others, you know, in you know, how they seat their frets, how they dress them out, that kind of thing. And I would say this is a lot better than some of the companies who put guitars out in this price range. Anyway, this is a Lyx Pro. I don't think it has a model number. I just think it's their T-style guitar. They do this in various colors with different color pickguards. I grabbed this one because A, I got it cheap, and B, I think it's probably the better looking one of all the ones that they do, and I wanted one with a maple neck because I prefer that on a Telly. Not much else to say. You know, pretty competently made guitar, not high end and not without issues, but you know, for around $100 or $110, can't really complain if you know how to do a bit of setup, I think, and you want something to mod and not spend a lot of money. I think these are perfect for that. All right, folks, see you on the next one.